You are listening to a podcast of the Fahey and Shivari Show, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Thursdays, only on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to the Fahey and Shivari Show, and if you're a regular of our show, like our next caller is, then you know what this music means. It's time to bring in Gabe Salgado, a freelance writer. He does it all, covers it all. Gabe Salgado, this week we're going to be talking about the local NFL draft picks, and welcome back into the show, Gabe Salgado.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's good we finally met you in person on Tuesday, so I'm very glad that we finally got to meet you and snap a few photos. So let's get right into it. Let's talk locally. Let's just talk Bears really quickly, and we'll get to the local draft picks in just a second. Overall, your thoughts on the Bears draft?
You know, if I were to give them a grade, I'd probably have to say about maybe a C+. I mean, I think that there's other things that they could have, done. I think they had a chance to get, Clinton Dix or Calvin Pryor, and they didn't do it. They did address the defensive line need. They did get the backup running back, but I think they could have used a high-profile safety.
All right, there's all sorts of different local schools. I mean, of course, we have Kane Coulter, Tyler Scott coming from Northwestern. I want to get into Jordan Lynch right away because he is an undrafted free agent, ends up with the Bears, which in terms of a local story, that's kind of big. But do you think realistically Jordan Lynch will be a quarterback in this league, or do you think he ends up as a wide receiver or possibly even a running back is what I've heard as well?
Well, the Bears were talking about using him as a running back. I hope that he would at least get a chance to prove himself as a quarterback. I think that he has what it takes, but if not, you can see him used as primarily an offensive player. Maybe, use him in the wildcat or perhaps the read option. With his athleticism and his speed, there's a lot of different things that the Bears can do with him.
Going down the list here, at the University of Notre Dame from South Bend, in the first round, offensive lineman Zach Martin went number 16 to the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of people and a lot of speculation was that Dallas was going to take Johnny Manziel, the quarterback out of Texas A&M. Obviously, that did not happen, and for good reason in my mind. Does it seem like a good fit for Zach Martin in Dallas?
Definitely. Dallas's offensive line, has struggled at times in recent years. And when you take a look at what happened to Tony Romo and all the hits that he took last year and the back injury that made him miss the last game of the regular season, definitely, having someone who can protect him always helps. And the thing about Zach Martin is that he could play all five positions on the offensive line. So he has the flexibility that Dallas needs to have better protection for Tony Romo.
Gabe Salgado joins us on the Illinois Center for Broadcasting hotline. And, Gabe, the big thing is Notre Dame had 8 total draft picks, and that's not including Tommy Rees and George Atkinson as undrafted free agents. Losing 10 players like that, do you think that's going to be a big hit to Notre Dame? I know they have traditionally, now that the program has been kind of brought back up by Brian Kelly, it's a stronger recruiting class. But how much of a hit will that be to Notre Dame with having that many players going into the pros this year?
Well, the good thing is they're getting Everett Golson back this year at quarterback, so it's not a complete loss. As far as the other positions, they're going to have some young guys step up, or perhaps even some new recruits to fill those positions. I don't think it'll be too much of a loss, but it's definitely something that they're going to have to work on.
Let's head down to Champaign. The University of Illinois had no Illini players selected in the 7-round NFL draft, but 3 players signed undrafted free agent contracts. Jonathan Brown went to the Arizona Cardinals, Ryan Langford to the Miami Dolphins, a wide receiver, and tight end Evan Wilson goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Out of those 3 players that I mentioned, which has the most upside going forward?
Definitely have to say the linebacker Brown. I mean, he's got some size, he's got some speed. Considering how bad the Illini were, you didn't really get a good look at him individually. But I definitely think that he has what it takes to play in this league.
Do you think that kind of is an eye-opener that no Illini players, a Big Ten school, a school that has major football players coming out of that school, do you think that's kind of maybe a black eye for the University of Illinois to not have anyone go drafted and maybe puts Tim Beckman on the hot seat?
I don't know if it puts Tim Beckman on the hot seat, but it's definitely something that doesn't bode well for the university, considering that in the past they used to have players get drafted, and it wasn't that rough to do so. But now it just just shows you how the program was kind of falling to some degree.
Going back to what we were talking about with Notre Dame, we talked about offensive lineman Zach Martin going in the first round to the Dallas Cowboys. Another name that is one of the more famous Notre Dame, notable players, I should say, Louis Nix, defensive tackle from Notre Dame, was selected in the third round by the Houston Texans. They select Jadeveon Clowney as number 1 overall, the Houston Texans. They already have J.J. Watt. Can you see Louis Nix being an impactful defensive lineman in his rookie season for the Texans?
If the Texans aren't among the league leaders in sacks next season, I think that'll be a big disappointment, because with those 3 guys up front, the Texans shouldn't be able to disrupt opposing offenses. I mean, you take a look at what each guy brings to the table. J.J. Watt's already proved himself in this league. Louis Nix, he got himself in better shape, and his knee injuries all healed up. And, you take a look at the size that he has, his ability to stuff and run. He can rush the pass. And, of course, Jadeveon Clowney is just a freak of nature. So if the Texans aren't among the league leaders in sacks next season, I think it'll be a big disappointment.
I think one of the biggest stories coming out of Illinois this year was down in Charleston, Illinois, Eastern Illinois' Jimmy Garoppolo, who also is from Arlington Heights. He ends up getting drafted by the New England Patriots, and some have compared his style of play to Tom Brady, and now he gets to sit behind Tom Brady and kind of be coached by him. How big of a draft was that for New England, and what do you expect out of Garoppolo? Is this a guy whose name we're going to start hearing a little bit more of on Sundays for years to come?
Well, perhaps, it depends on how much longer Tom Brady plays, but the good thing about it is that, the Patriots like to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game, and that's what Garoppolo did in college. And the Patriots like to run multiple receiver sets, which is what Garoppolo did in college as well. So, it should be somewhat familiar for him, to have a similar type of offense. And plus, eventually, you're going to have to replace Tom Brady. He's getting up there in age, and I imagine he won't play for too much longer, so it's never a bad idea to groom a replacement.
Going down to Bloomington Normal, Illinois, Illinois State defensive tackle Shelby Harris was drafted by Paul Chivari's very own Oakland Raiders. I know, Paul, you're very happy about it.
I need the scouting report here from Gabe, because I didn't get a chance to see a lot of Shelby Harris, and I think that's funny that Illinois State had someone drafted and not Illinois. But, Gabe, you got to tell me, how big is this for the Raiders?
I never really got a chance to see him play either, so I'm probably just as surprised as you are. He was one of only 2 ISU players that entered the draft, and he was the only one that was drafted. And, yeah, I agree with you. It's amazing that he was drafted ahead of any Illinois player. So, I guess as the mini camps and all the workouts unfold, we'll see what he has, and we'll find out if the Raiders made a good decision or not.
Talking about what the Raiders drafting Shelby Harris, I want to add on to that. They lose defensive end Lamar Houston because he signed a deal with the Chicago Bears. Bringing in Shelby Harris into the Raider country, does bringing in Harris help maybe fill the void of Lamar Houston? Because I know it's not going to take one guy to fill the shoes of Lamar Houston, but is Shelby Harris potentially in the right direction going forward for the Raiders to replace Houston?
Well, obviously the Raiders saw something in him that perhaps nobody else did, but, considering the type of player that Houston is and how he was starting to finally, give the production they were looking for, I don't think you could totally replace that. But this is definitely a guy who's going to have a chance to prove himself and prove that, you can be from a small school and still make an impact in the NFL.
Kane Coulter from Northwestern University, we've talked about him the last couple months here with his involvement with trying to get Northwestern and college athletes to form a union. He ends up signing with the Minnesota Vikings, and you kind of had him slated as possibly a wide receiver too. But if Kane Coulter, I mean, realistically, he'd have to compete with Christian Ponder and now Teddy Bridgewater for that quarterback spot. I just wanted to see your opinion on if there's a chance that he even does make the team. If he does, will it be quarterback or wide receiver? And are the Vikings ready to take on someone that's already kind of created kind of a reputation and a controversy around himself because he still might be involved and entrenched in this whole NCAA union sort of ordeal?
Well, if he makes the roster, it'll probably be as a wide receiver. As you and I have talked about in the past, Paul, Kane Coulter, he knows how to play the quarterback position, but he doesn't necessarily have the greatest arm strength. He can't throw very far as much as, we may have been led to believe in the past. So if he makes the roster, it'll be as a wide receiver, and I think he'll be better off as a wide receiver. But again, he'll probably face more questions from the media about the CAPA and the union movement as opposed to, his skills and, what he wants to do to make the team. So, aside from, having to prove himself, he's going to have to deal with a lot of media scrutiny.
You guys can follow Gabe Salgado on Twitter at Gabe Salgado82. That's GabeSalgado82. Going back to, we talked about it just a little briefly. I want to get in depth with this a little more. Tommy Rees had a Notre Dame signed as an undrafted free agent with the Washington Redskins. Now, there's a lot of, obviously, controversy going on with the Redskins a little bit at this point, not only with the name change, but, is RG3 going to have a full season where he's ready, good to go off of the sophomore slump? There's talk that Kirk Cousins could go somewhere. Rex Grossman's still around there as the third string. Now that Tommy Rees is brought into the equation, is there any chance that Tommy Rees will find somewhat of success in Washington maybe in the next 5 years, if he's even staying that long?
Well, he has to make the roster first, and he has an uphill battle ahead of him when you take a look at the other quarterbacks on the roster. Could he make the roster as a practice squad member? Perhaps. There's also, you never know. The Redskins could wind up trading Kirk Cousins, considering, the ability that he has, and, sitting behind RG3 probably won't get him on the field anytime soon. So there's a lot of different things that the Redskins could wind up doing with the position. So for Tommy Rees, all he can do is just, go out there, prove himself, show what he can do, and hopefully the puzzle pieces will fall into place.
And Gabe, out of all of these guys that we've listed off today, which one do you think will have the biggest impact, or which one do you think is the best fit for which team they got drafted with?
Well, there's a variety of different abilities that each player brings to the team that drafted them or signed them. It's just a matter of how they can fit within the roster, and just a matter of, what it is that, each team needs and what, needs they're trying to fill. If I had to pick one local player that stood out, it'd definitely have to be Jimmy Ward, also an NIU grad with the 49ers. The 49ers, were looking for depth at safety, and I think he definitely brings in that, considering he was the first NIU player drafted. He was in the first round. Obviously, he's probably cream of the crop as far as the safeties were this year. So I definitely think he'll probably make the biggest impact out of all the local draft picks.
It's every Thursday, and that means we've been talking to Gabe Salgado here at this time on the Fahey and Chivari Show here on SportsTownChicago.com. We'll be chatting to him at the same time again next week. Gabe, we appreciate the knowledge. Have a great day, man. Take care.
All right, thanks, guys. You too.
That is Gabe Salgado, freelance writer. He's had his writings everywhere lately. Some great articles for Midway Madness if you want to check out some of the stuff he's been writing about. You can follow him on Twitter at Gabe Salgado82. That's GabeSalgado82. Really good follow, really great guy, and every week just something new to talk about. Can't wait to see what he wants to talk about next week. Cause
he always throws that curveball in the way of, we don't know until what, the day before? It's like a lottery in a way. You just wait to see what he wants.
He'll usually give me like a 1 or 2 day heads up. But this time he came up with this segment on Saturday, and there was some confusion because he was like,
"That's a record, I think."
Exactly. It was like really early, and he was like, "I want to talk about the local draft picks," and I'm thinking like guys that grew up in Chicago, and he's talking about the local universities. So there was like a disconnect when we were first talking. So I was like, okay, he's talking about Garoppolo from Arlington Heights and Fedorowicz from Johnsburg, and he's like, "What Fedorowicz?"
That's another guy we didn't even bring up either.
Yeah, and he went to Iowa too, and I kind of talked with him a little bit about that kind of on Tuesday when he talked, and there was so much to cover here that he wanted to do that I thought we got it. But the thing I wanted to bring up about C.J. Fedorowicz, I don't know if I told you about this. He grew up in Johnsburg, which is like McHenry County, north, not too far from Wisconsin, but like way north of me. But
is it near the Rockford area?
No. It's like McHenry, if you know where that is.
Okay,
yeah, it's like just north of McHenry. Anyway, in Johnsburg, there's a deli called Epic Deli, and
I think you told me about.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, for the listeners and our guests in studio here, I got to explain the sandwich. It's Epic Deli has just these insane, ridiculous sandwiches, and they usually break up into like 2 or 3 meals. They made a sandwich for C.J. Fedorowicz, their local hometown hero that's now going to play tight end for the Houston Texans. So what it is, it's homemade meatloaf with mozzarella cheese and bacon, battered in tempura and shredded potatoes, deep fried, and served with a side of jalapeno ketchup.
That's healthy.
Yeah, and that's just that. I mean, there's another one.
That's not like 1,000 calories or anything. It's not going to like raise your cholesterol rate or anything.
Oh, and that's Epic Deli though. I mean, they have like sandwiches that are wrapped in like crushed Doritos and deep fried, or like there's one this week that's like a hot dog covered in pulled pork. like served with like all sorts of like
does sound
other
good, though,
toppings.
to be
like-
honest.
So, oh my gosh, yeah, you got to look it up. Epic Deli in Johnsburg. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go, and it's just insane specials every week. And I mean, even the regular menu is crazy. I think they have like a BLT that has like half a pound of bacon in there. Like it's just ridiculous how much that they have.
What was that
Like,
one pizza place? I think this was about a couple weeks ago that we were going crazy about. It was
with the Blackhawks pizza? That
Yeah.
one? That was Punky's down in
Punky's,
south
that's
side
what-
of Chicago. I think
Punky's,
it's
thank
like
you.
2600 South Wallace, I think is where that was.
I could not. I thought it was like Funky Town or something, but Punky.
No,
I was,
Punky's.
I was close.
No, because I got excited when I saw that it was called Punky's because there's a Punky's in Lombard, and I was like, if this is the Lombard place, we're ordering
not,
this
though.
pizza.
It's not, is it?
And no, it's not. It's in south side of Chicago, like 2600 South Wallace, so
Oh.
like relatively near U.S. Cellular like field.
That's a drive.
But that's a
That's
pizza
struggle.
in the shape of the Blackhawks logo, so it's like the hair is out of black olives.
There's
Like,
a lot of black olives on that
yeah,
pizza.
a lot of sweet peppers too to make up the feathers, and then I think it was like pepperoni for the earring, and I don't know.
It makes sense.
It's clever. It's under $20. It's a novelty. I guess they've been selling like an average of like 20 or 30 a night during the games, so why not?
I think they'd be selling 20 to 30 every night regardless.
Well,
and then the
maybe.
thing is, now I'd be.
Not a lot of people like black olives, though. I mean, I do, but I mean that's
Okay,
that's
I'm
a
okay.
lot. That's a lot of black olives.
Here's the problem I have with it. Now this would be. I don't know if this is just me. If I was to order the pizza, I wouldn't cut it
No,
because it looks too good.
Wrap the thing up and or like
frame it.
like preserve it or something.
Yeah,
or,
I do like frame it because it looks too good to cut up. They put all the hard work into that, and then you cut it up with a pizza cut slicer. It's just you can't do that.
That reminds
You
me.
can't break it up. It's too good.
There's a story of my cousin. He's way older than me, but I guess before my time, tradition on Easter is to have lamb cake.
Okay.
Like cake in the shape of a lamb. And like my cousin was in tears when they were like chopping the head off of the lamb to like serve it up. Like no, you can't cut up the lamb. That's just what that reminded me of. You're like, I don't want to cut the pizza. Like
That's like if you ever see like a birthday cake for a kid, it looks too good, and then you just don't want to cut it.
how would you cut that Blackhawks pizza? Is it squares or slices? I mean, it's not a perfect
I don't know
circle.
because all the
so-
black olives are on one side of the pizza.
Yeah.
I don't know how you cut that.
Well, like people are saying, rearrange.
You got to
and grab
rearrange
it.
it.
Yeah.
You snap a photo, then rearrange the olives. I think that probably would be what you would do.
Okay.
But I'd still frame it.
And then what if they win while you're watching the game and eating the pizza? Do you have to order that pizza every time they play for
So then
good
you
luck?
get so then you
superstition?
feel
Yeah.
superstitious. That's probably why I shouldn't even buy one to begin with, because I'm going to feel like I did something wrong or it's too good and I have to keep ordering it. It's $20 every time.
Well, you're going to have to go to Chicago to get it because I don't think they'll deliver all the way out to Woodridge. So,
There's highways around, isn't there?
oh yeah, it's got to be relatively close to like the Dan Ryan or the.
Oh, I live right near the Stevensons.
Yeah,
It's
which
not,
I think
it's not that far.
I think the Stevenson runs by. Well, I don't think they're going to deliver a pizza down the Stevenson for you. So
No, well, side roads, Google Maps. Come on, guys.
we'll have to just make a
you
trip
have to
down
think,
there.
You have to think outside the box here a little bit.
A little Fahey and Chivalry remote at the Punky's Pizza Place.
So that's two places that we have to go.
Punky's and what? Oh, Epic Deli, or you talking about the Chevy Chase Golf Club?
That's three then.
The Scripps National Spelling
That's
Bee.
four.
The list is adding up.
The list is there's too many things that we could go to.
All right, so that's what we got in the future. We also have to tell Rick Renteria that he has to grow a handlebar mustache in order to win the World Series because you need facial hair if you're going to coach a team to a championship in the city of Chicago.
It's the Fahey and Shivari Show every Thursday from 10 to 2 p.m. only on SportsTownChicago.com.